Kerry with Divine Radiance, and today we're going to talk about the different ways that darkness makes you forget your light. In my last video, How to Exit the Matrix, we talked about the function of the darkness is to keep you separate from God, separate from your light, separate from your power. So today we're going to go in a little deeper on the different ways that it does it, just so that you're aware. Now, I want to emphasize something. This is not to get you stressed or thinking you need to change all of this, because that will just bring your frequency down. This happened to me. When you're first learning this, you're like, well, I want to change it. Like, this is horrible. No, we accept it as it is, as that is its function. Our only job is to rise above it, to be aware of it, and to no longer let it control us. And in that way, you're more free. Because if you are tied to wanting to change these things, you will go down a never-ending rabbit hole, right? There is a function for it, but our function is to remember our light and rise above it. So that will ease a lot of stress. If you are new to my channel, my name is Kerry. I am a certified crystal healer, a divine light healer, and a spiritual guide. I'm currently embarking on 2 spirituality courses, A Course in Miracles and Paramahansa Yogananda's Self-Realization Fellowship Study, both of which are designed to help you transcend the ego and reach a higher level of consciousness. So I will be talking about this and what I'm learning on my channel. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, and likes, comments, and shares are always appreciated. So let's talk about the ways, okay? So we talked about in the last video, the function of the darkness, the function of evil is to keep you separate from God, separate from your light. That is the impure nature. It's a creative force in this reality. The opposing force is the light, the truth, the Holy Spirit, the good as opposed to the evil, right? And that function is to help you remember your light and unite. So that's what we want to be more in line with. And in order to get in alignment with that, we have to realize the way the darkness tricks us into thinking we're powerless, into thinking that we are helpless, and that we are just floating on this earth, and all we're meant to do is work at a job that is kind of meaningless to us, just so we can make enough money to pay a lot of bills. And basically what we're doing is we're fueling the top of the chain, right? The people at the top are fueling their physical desires with yachts and private jets and all of these wonderful things that keep them going. And all of the rest of us are just a cog in the wheel to help that machine go. And so that's its function, is to make you think that's all that life is. They'll tell you life is hard, there's suffering is a part of life. All of those are lies, and you have to work really hard for money. All of that is a complete lie. So let's get into it. One of the first ways is it wants you to be busy. Okay, that is the whole thing about being lazy, how bad that is, and how bad it makes you feel when you stop to do nothing, right? Because why? Right? To know God, to know your light, you need to be still. Be still and know that I am God. Right? We've all heard that. In order to know God and have a relationship and to remember our soul and our light, we need to be still. So their message is, oh, laziness, that they call that laziness. They don't encourage downtime. They want you as busy as possible, because when you stop, you might remember your light and your power, and that is against what it wants you to do. Offering you physical solutions to pain. So many addictions, right? So the darkness offers you temporary pleasure that's usually followed by pain. Take alcohol. Oh, okay, you're not feeling well, you're depressed, you're having a bad day. The ego, which is an individualized aspect of the darkness, will encourage you to have a drink. Maybe have 2 drinks, maybe have 3, maybe do other types of recreational drugs, or maybe it's porn, or maybe it's to have an affair. Maybe all of these things offer temporary pleasure followed by pain. So the next day, after you've drinking a lot, even though you feel really good in the moment, you don't feel so good after. Same thing, if you ate a whole cake to feel better, you're not going to feel all that great after. And of course, in the long term, these things have can have a big impact on your overall health, right? If you turn to alcohol too much, it can affect your liver, all aspects of your life, your health. You can actually even lose your job if it gets bad enough. DUIs, all sorts of things, right? So the darkness's solution to pain is temporary pleasure followed by pain. So that's anything external to you. Remember, everything that we need is internal. So if you're getting directed externally for drugs, for anything like that, then it's a temporary solution and won't offer you long-term benefits. So that is the one way that the darkness pumps. It wants you to seek externally for any comfort or to get better in any way. Focused on money, right? The money is the apple of the Garden of Eden, right? The money is what you want. That is the most important thing to your happiness and your wellness is money. Once again, that will keep you busy because you will have to work really hard. And then, of course, the wants and the desires with the advertising, it tells you, you need this to be happy. You need this kind of car, this expensive car, this type of really nice house, these type of clothing. You need to look a certain way. So you just keep spending money so that you have to work really hard to try to get more money. And that's the cycle it keeps you on. Is just your bills increase as your money increases. Anyone that's had raises knows that where does that money go, right? Your expenses rise up, and that is by design. They want you to keep spending money. So look out for that. So here's kind of and then focus on your physical. I want to tie that in. So how you look, your weight, all of those things become an issue because that is just another distraction to keep you away from God. People spend more time exercising than necessarily praying or meditating in ways to get to know God. It's just another thing to distract. So religion, this is a big one. So views on religion are so diverse and complicated. And by design. Remember, anything with power is owned by the darkness. All media outlets, news outlets, newspapers, radio stations, at the top of everything, the darkness rules. All governments and even the church, right? Because God is pure love. God is not fear. God is the opposite of fear. But yet the church and some of religions teaches fear. That is not accurate. But it creates diversity and it creates controversy. In that, what drove me away from the church is I had a really good relationship with God, and once I started learning through the Christian church and Christian school, when they started talking about how homosexuals would go to hell, that didn't resonate with me. It didn't make sense to me. And I didn't know anyone that was gay at the time. I didn't have a personal connection. I just knew that wasn't right. And that has put a lot of people off from the church. I have a friend who has a hard time saying God because that rings up this image of him being bad, him being like a sinful being and not worthy, right? So those things are all by design to push you away from God. And then those who do go hard into religion, there's a stereotype that they're maybe not that smart, that they're a little gullible. It's portrayed in movies as well. So you'd be hard pressed to find any movie or TV show that glorifies anyone who is really into God or really even into religion. They're mostly viewed as fanatics and weirdos and always like evil sometimes. Or if it is about God, it's usually a comedy and a satire in that type of way. There is no coolness about God portrayed in any media form. Interesting when you kind of think about it. All the movies that have ever been made, there's very few, at least none that I can think of, that really glorify God in any way. However, they do glorify violence, money, and sex and beauty, those type of things. Like I said, those feed their agenda to keep us feeling like, oh, money's important. Look at that guy on the yacht, Wolf of Wall Street. Look how fun these people are having it, right? It glorifies that. It glorifies violence. It glorifies sex and all of these physical things that won't give you that lasting happiness, that give you the temporary pleasure followed by pain type of scenario. So it glorifies that. You'll be very hard pressed to find anything that glorifies God. Now there are a few, but they're hidden. So Star Wars is one of them, right? A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back. Anyone can kind of recognize the Force as the Holy Spirit, as God. Yoda is so close to yoga. Yoga means union with God. Yoda helps Luke transcend his ego and develop the full powers of the Force. I won't go into that, even though I could talk at very great length. And George Lucas admits, like there's an interview on CNN that you can look up, how he talks about he did want to introduce God to a younger generation, not in the form of religion, but just God, but he couldn't call it God. He didn't say why. Was it because it's not allowed? Is it an unspoken rule? Or he just knew it wouldn't be cool enough and would turn people off? I don't know. But he was introducing God in a new way by calling it the Force, by calling it something different. And movies like The Matrix, right? They have a lot of truth in them. They have to be disguised in a different way, but people who are awakened are like, okay, there's a lot of truth in what they're saying, but they have to disguise it. So the truth of God has to be hidden within these stories. They can't just be outright. So that is just another way that the darkness keeps us disconnected from God through various views of religion. We could go on, but fear is another one. So the same top 1% own all the news outlets, and everyone knows news is constantly injecting fear into our lives, one way or the other. Why? Well, we're more easily controlled. And fear makes you feel powerless, right? Remember we talked about you give your power away. You're saying, oh, that thing that they're telling me is scary is more powerful than I am. So we give it their power. Take the virus, right? So they told us we needed to be scared of it, and so many people did. We gave our power away and made it stronger. Maybe it would have just kind of fizzled away had it not been for the news. I don't know, but I do know that enough of us gave our power away and made it really, really big. And that's by design, right? So then we are more controlled. We don't have time to connect with God more so. It kind of drives us back into the system and the cycle. It normalizes sickness. Having a pharmacy on every corner, having it be normal to be on 5 or 6 medications, to go on a medication and then have side effects and be given another medication. That is all normalized. It's not normal that your body can heal itself. They don't teach that. They also don't teach meditation. They don't teach these things that help you connect with your light. Going into schooling is another way, right? School teaches us, it conforms us. It wants us all to conform to the norms. It doesn't celebrate anyone's differences. It wants us to obey authority, right? It teaches us, it ingrains in us that we need to obey the powers that be type of thing, right? Our government, our elders, those type of things. So we're easily controlled, basically. And then, of course, keeping us divided. They divide into races, right? Oh, you're different than that person. They call it, even just calling it a race. We were all just once humans that had lighter skin or darker skin, but to label them is separating. And that happened not as long ago as you would think. Caste is a great book. I highly recommend about that. Learning about how we got divided into different races and how it separates us and divides us. They love that. Right and left, right? The political views. They love that because basically they're up here and then they pit different people against each other. So don't forget, they own the media, so they can spin a story in a way that they know a certain personality type is going to get triggered and get them all riled up. And then they do the same with the others. So each side is just blaming the other. oh, the Democrats are ruining this country. Oh, the Republicans are ruining this country. It has everyone pitted against each other while they're like laughing and making a shitload of money, right? That is their plan. That is by design. It is by design. It creates hate, right? Hate is away from light. It creates fear. It creates jealousy. It creates scarcity. All of those things that help the darkness thrive. And people are just banging their heads to each other, and they're not looking at looking up and seeing like they're all just benefiting by pitting us against each other. So those things you really want to watch out for. Don't take sides. We're all one. And the more we unite, the more they will lose their power. But they strive on that. Now, there's other little ways they can be controversial. Fluoride in the water, right? I didn't get that one, but we can't swallow toothpaste. And I remember taking a fluoride rinse when I was little. I was like, don't swallow it. But yet, why is it in our water? Why is it in our water when we can't even swallow it when we brush our teeth, right? They say that the fluoride calcifies the pineal gland in our brain. And the pineal gland is what connects us with source in meditation. And it's our connection to the higher. So I'm not saying it's so true, but it's interesting to think. They're like, oh, it's to help your teeth. The United States never cares about saving anyone money. We all know that. It's about capitalism. So why would the dentist be like, that's how they make their money. They don't make them off the cleaning. They make them off the cavities. So it doesn't make sense why they would add that for that sake, because they never do anything to help us save money. That's for sure. So interesting thought. And like I said, just kind of making it normal to be on medications, because medications have side effects, guys. Everything you put into your body has an effect. Everything, every food, every drink, everything has an effect. Yes, maybe not in the small doses, but over time, the chemistry in your body has to react to these medications, to these things we're injecting into our bodies. So we got to be cognizant of that. Not saying to get off all your medications, but just be wary of having to get on another medication. Look into alternative medical, like holistic medicine. There's amazing, amazing advances in that field. So that can really help. While you're in your medical, you don't have to say goodbye to that, but supplement your care with other things. And then maybe one day you can wean off different medications. So anyway, those are some ways that the darkness keeps you from your light. So what do? Number one, be aware. Don't get yourself all in a tizzy about how do I change this? Because you don't have to change it, right? Just know that you can rise above it. We raise our frequency, and we can actually raise it high enough to not be affected by it whatsoever. We can actually get out of this matrix, this reality of lies per se. We can get out of it. That is in our power once we remember our power. So you connect with God, you connect with source, build a personal relationship, meditate every day. Don't fall into these traps. That'll help raise your frequency. Because we all know, even within this 3D reality, we all have different experiences. My sister, her frequency is a lot lower, and she experiences things that I can't even imagine, right? And so the higher your frequency, the better your experiences are going to be. So the idea is to keep raising your frequency higher and higher, so your reality and what you experience are better and better, to the point where you can finally get out from under this control and into complete freedom, eternal bliss and joy, which is also known as heaven on earth. But the first step is to recognize these things and not let it control, not let it dominate you. Just recognize it as ways that they're trying to keep you from your light, to keep you from your power, to make you feel powerless. You have the same power that created the cosmos within you. Your soul is an individualized aspect of God, of that same energy, and that is within you. It's just the ego is an individualized aspect of the darkness. Your soul is an individualized aspect. So if you can shift the power from your ego to your soul, voila, you are away from all of this. And you can live a tremendously amazing life. But it takes a little bit of work. It takes a little determination, but it's not impossible. They will tell you it is, and your ego is probably saying, oh, that's not possible. It is. It's the conditioning that they've been ingraining in our brain since we were born about how hard life can be and how struggle is real. And all of those things are just ways to make us buy into when we're experiencing this reality instead of saying, no. I mean, do we really think God created this gorgeous earth so that we could just kind of work at a job that we're not passionate about and that we're not using our gifts just to make enough money to pay bills most of our lives and struggle? That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't. And once I realized that, I was like, no, this isn't what life, that's what they want us to believe at the top, because they're benefiting with all their yachts and they're constantly filling their lives with physical gratification. But those of us who aren't there we're just a cog in the wheel. And that is not what life is intended to be. It's just not. But you got to make an effort. Any help I can give, always reach out. I love to help people kind of get on the spiritual path, back to their light. My mission is to help people remember the power of their soul, to connect with their divinity. So I'm wishing you love and blessings, and have a great day.